Good afternoon. My name's Trey Hutt, and I'm with Hutt Insurance Agency here in Panama City. And we're starting this to give some folks some hurricane tips. We're here to help with questions, help out with anything you've got. We're going to focus on insurance issues because what we've discovered over the last 17 days, we're post-Michael by 17 days, a little better than 2 weeks, is that a lot of the people that have come to my office have the same questions. A lot of the same topics are popping up. So we'd like to try to cover some of those in this and in future broadcasts. And we're going to focus on people that are not our clients. The people that come to our office that are our clients, we tend to help. Obviously, that's what they pay us to do. But they have a lot of the same questions that the general public has. We're a little concerned because some people are not getting that same level of help. And there's no sense in going out and paying a public adjuster up to 10% of your claim just to get a few questions answered. If we can help you avoid that and get you a little bit of simple help and put your feet on the right path, we figure we'll rebuild our community a little more quickly. And we want to help people understand that we've got an elephant here. This is a big deal. There's a lot to be done. But what we've got to do, and what we're going to try to do for you in this and in future broadcasts, is to break that elephant down into bite-sized pieces for you so that we can eat it and digest it, and at the end of this thing, we'll all be back to where we all want to be in Bay County. So, we're going to be opening a help desk at our office. It's going to be a free service. It'll be after hours. From 9 to 5, we're going to be helping our clients, and we're going to be very busy with that because everybody's in the same boat. But after that, we're going to be setting up a help desk. We'll post some details here on Facebook and on other social media to let you know about it. And you can sign up for an appointment there, and you can get help with no obligation, no cost, no contract, no signature, no nothing. We'll never take a fee. We don't need anything for that. We just want to provide the help that we're able to provide. We've got people that are good at cutting trees in town. We're good at insurance. We're going to do what we do well, we think. Today, we'll take any questions, of course, that we've got. And I'm going to focus a little bit today on how this process is going to work. This is very confusing for everybody because most people have never had an insurance claim other than perhaps an auto claim. And to be frank, most of us, even in this business, have never had damage on this scale. This is something completely new to all of us, and we've learned a lot about the process and how it can work most effectively for you. We've also found, all of us, that time almost doesn't exist anymore in Bay County. Traffic is horrendous. Everything takes twice as long and takes twice as much effort as it normally does. So what we'd like to do is to help you be efficient with your time and your effort because you're going to be exhausted. And if we can keep you from getting tired and having to drive that extra mile and make that extra stop and that extra phone call, we figure maybe that'll make your life just a little bit easier. So let's turn to a couple of topics and a couple of questions that we've gotten an awful lot over the past 2 weeks. And they're going to be fairly simple, and as we get new topics and new questions, we'll cover those in future broadcasts. What we've already found is that a number of people have come through and their questions and their issues change. A day or two after the storm, everybody was worried about power. Everybody was worried about getting trees off their roof. Their next concern was getting tarps up and drying things in. Then they wanted to dry out the place. This has to happen in a sequence. We can't do everything all at once, all on the first day. So these dominoes need to fall in a particular order. And in these broadcasts, we will try to follow those dominoes in sequence for you so that our information comes out at roughly the same time that you need it. And we're not talking about something today that you won't need to worry about for a month or 6 months or 2 weeks ago, frankly. A good example would be fuel. I'm not going to tell you where to find fuel because, frankly, there's tons and tons of gas stations open now, and that's no longer a big concern as it was just a few days ago. So the first topic I wanted to mention is down trees. Everyone that had a tree in their yard is probably dealing with it being where it's not supposed to be. As far as coverage from your insurance policy, down trees are covered with some limitations. Generally speaking, most insurance policies dictate that they will cover the removal and they'll cover the chainsaw crew and removal of a tree that falls on a covered structure. That could be the house, that could be a shed, a fence, a hot tub, anything like that. If it just falls in the yard, chances are it may not be covered. That being said, if you contracted with a tree removal service, say a week ago, and you had 2 trees that fell on your house and 2 that fell in the yard, well, if you contract with a tree service for a certain price, chances are, if you hand that invoice to an adjuster, they'll pay that invoice without asking which trees were which. It becomes the adjuster's job at that point to prove that one of those trees didn't fall in your house. Therefore, ambiguity is going to be resolved in your favor. So if there's any question, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. The second question is debris removal. Debris removal is handled a little bit differently in a number of different policies. It usually has a certain limit to it, but frankly, I don't think I would get too worried about it at this point. Good adjusters are finding ways to cover debris removal in parts of the policy that maybe would not have been intended to be that way. So what I would say is that's probably not your major concern, and if you have a particular question about it, get a copy of your policy, and there should be a section of that policy that specifically talks about debris removal. What you probably can do is you can contact your insurance provider, ask them to send you a copy of that policy in a PDF format, and then simply type the words debris removal in your search bar, and then you can read that one paragraph instead of going through 60 or 80 pages of text. The other question that we got an awful lot last week was about tarping your home. Is my insurance company going to come out and tarp my home? Every insurance company handles that issue differently, and because of the amount of devastation that we faced, an awful lot of insurance companies did have resources they were able to deploy, and they sent tarp crews and cleanup crews and things out. Others would prefer that you maintain control of your claim, and a lot of people prefer to do that, and they hired people that they had relationships with, or they simply went out and bought tarps and they did it themselves. Any of those are acceptable so long as you can do that safely. There are a lot of us that frankly would like to think that we can do an awful lot of things, but I don't know that I need to be crawling around on the roof tarping things right now, because the last thing you want to add to the devastation of your home and the complexity of an insurance claim is an ER visit. That's not going to be good for anyone. And I'd like to focus for a little bit on process. We've talked about coverage just a little bit, and we'll cover that and some of the individual parts of an insurance policy a little bit later in other broadcasts. Right now, I think most people just want to be walked through the process, and it's very intimidating for most of us, and it doesn't really have to be. As long as someone can tell you the way things are supposed to work, this doesn't have to be nearly as painful. The very first thing that should happen is obviously everybody reports a claim. You can report that to your local agent. You can report that via an 800 number. There's lots of ways. There was some encouragement that we report claims directly via the internet, and I don't know about you, but my Wi-Fi's been down up until today. So that wasn't a real good option. But calling a local agent, frankly, is a good option, even after you've reported your claim, to check in with them. Having someone locally that represents you, that you can get eyeball to eyeball with across a desk, you're going to find will be invaluable for you as this process moves along. The first person you'll meet probably from the insurance company after your report is called a field adjuster. When they come to your house, you should ask for their business card and for their identification, because we have had some reports that people have come around and taken advantage of the situation. We don't want that to happen with anyone. So after you politely ask for ID, they should have no difficulty providing it. And then what they'll do is they will do what they'll perform a scope, which is they'll run around your house. They should take very detailed photographs and make a very detailed description of your damage to the home, just the home itself at first. And they'll turn that data over to someone else that we'll talk about in a minute. What you'll find is they are very good at what they do, and the field adjuster that came to my house, frankly, found a great deal more damage than I was even able to discover on my own, and this is what I do for a living. So in my experience thus far, they've done a very, very good job. That adjuster will turn over their report to a person known as a desk adjuster or inside adjuster. This is someone that sits back in an office a long way away, and what they will do is they will be the person that over the long term you'll develop a relationship with. You'll send them receipts for your extra expenses. You'll talk about your rent for wherever that you are, your temporary living quarters. They will talk to you about your contents and making a list of that. And it'll be a person that over a period of time you'll develop something of a rhythm with. They should explain the process to you, and they should sort of walk you through the kind of information they need. Don't get overly concerned about the format of that information. If they give you a form that they want you to fill out, safe to list your contents and you would rather do it in Microsoft Excel, which is my personal preference, then do it that way. You need to do this in a way that's comfortable and convenient for you, and then you can let the desk adjuster earn their money and put it in whatever format they want. I would encourage you to do this your way to a great degree. I will say this, you need to write it all down. There are three big elements to your claim. One is the building claim, and that's largely going to be handled by the field adjuster that I mentioned a moment ago. And the desk adjuster, when it comes to the time to sort of get the process started with your contractor, they will work with your contractor because they may have come up with a number of $100,000 to fix your home. When the contractor gets there, they say, well, that sounds great, but we found this additional damage. And in addition to that, construction costs have really, really gone up since the storm. Think of where are we going to get all the drywall contractors and roofers to do this. So this claim may suddenly be $130,000. Those two people can work together and come to the right number, and it's not your problem. The insurance company is obligated not for what they think it's worth, but for what it actually costs to repair your home to pre-storm condition. What will fall on your shoulders to some degree is the additional expenses, loss of use, and contents coverage. What you will have to think about is all of the money that you're spending now that you wouldn't spend ordinarily. You're having to drive farther, you're having to stay in a rented place, you're having to eat out more often. Your gas bill is going to be tremendous. Costs of running a generator, things such as that. You need to very quickly, if you can, get those costs down on paper so that you don't forget them, because you are the person that's more likely to shortchange yourself than the adjuster. And the same thing is true of contents. When you make a contents list, you may get a form that looks fairly intimidating that talks about wanting a date and a place purchased and what the price was and wants a copy of a receipt. That's not realistic. The form is there in case you have that data, but to give you an example, on my form for my contents at my home, my first entry I believe says couch, $400, purchased about 2002, and that's all the information I have, and that's going to be perfectly adequate. You don't need to be intimidated and don't feel like you have a level of detail that's unrealistic. Frankly, unless you buy something new within the last 30 days, chances are you don't have a receipt anyway. So don't get too worried about that, and don't think it's going to impair your ability to effectively navigate your claim. I would encourage you to get a notebook and write all of this down in one place, and probably in our next broadcast, I'm going to talk to you about what I have come to call your claims Bible that I think you should build. And there's a particular way you can keep records for yourself that will make this a much, much easier process, and it will keep you sane. Because there's an awful lot of information coming your way, and keeping it all in one place will be a big help. Before we get to that, my message today, frankly, would just be simply write it all down, keep receipts, and where it makes sense, take pictures. I'm going to tell you two things in closing that I think should be encouraging for you. Everybody is in a tough position, and I get that this is a brand new territory for all of us, including me. One thing I can tell you is I've seen an awful lot of behavior from adjusters and insurance professionals over the years that you may not have been proud of. I have to be honest with you. The behavior I have seen from insurance pros, adjusters, and claims people so far has been fantastic. We have to remember that we are in the CFO's hometown, and I suspect that insurance companies are very interested in making sure his hometown is treated well. And I have to say that everything I've seen, with some very rare anomalies, has been really, really helpful insurance people. So if you're getting poorly treated or if you're getting ignored, then frankly, I think what you need to do is you need to contact your agent or your insurance company. What you're experiencing is an anomaly. It's not habit. It's not what's happening every day out there. I realize you're already frustrated, but you need to be well treated. And if you're not, then you need to squeal a little bit. Make a phone call, and if you have to, you can call the CFO's office in Tallahassee, and they certainly will be glad to give you some attention. And we've seen really good response from them as well. I do have a question here. It said, how long should it take in a situation like this to come out to my house, and on average? This is a whole new world. My first answer is really I don't know. Most people, generally, if you reported your claim immediately after the storm in the first 3 or 4 days, you either should have already seen an adjuster or you should have at least been contacted by a field adjuster to set up an appointment that's convenient. If you have not been contacted by a field adjuster and you reported your claim more than a week or so ago, frankly, you need to make a phone call to someone. And if you have any issues or questions that are specific, you're more than welcome to send them to me. I'll give you my email address on the way out here in a minute, and I think we'll be fine. The other thing I was going to let you know is that, to be encouraging, is that the adjusters we've seen so far have been very, very helpful and very generous in their assessment of things. When there's any ambiguity, if there's any question whether or not something is covered, they're covering it. They're writing checks. These people have shown up for real. We have one insurance company, for instance, Tower Hill Insurance Company, that when they broke up the insurance village and many of the insurance people went home, they simply moved across the bridge to the Fairfield Inn at the base of the Hathaway Bridge. I'm aware that some other insurance companies have done something very, very similar. Laura Davidenko is asking, if the insurance adjuster's been out, what are the next steps? How do they work? It's pretty simple. I think what you need to do then is begin gathering receipts, making your list that we discussed earlier, keeping receipts again for additional expenses, and begin some plans for what you want to do for where you're going to stay long term and replacing your furnishings and other contents. Probably buy a few. Don't go out and buy an entirely new wardrobe and an entirely new house full of furniture right now. Buy what you need for right now, and then talk to your desk adjuster. That desk adjuster needs to advance you some money, and they need to reimburse you for the monies that you've already spent that you can document. So that should be a pretty simple part of the process. I think we're going to close it up for now. I am going to say that I hope your experience has been good and that this information is only moderately helpful for you, and you've already heard this from someone else. I would encourage you, we're going to save this on our webpage. If you find someone in distress that just needs a little walk through the process, please encourage them to take a look at this information. And again, as we get more questions down the road, we'll try to do this a couple times a week and address the most current topics and concerns. Write it all down, be careful, protect yourself, and thanks for watching. You can catch me at any time. My email address is Trey, T-R-E-Y, at huttinsurance.com. And please be aware that I'm only answering those kinds of emails after hours so we can again focus on our clients. Thanks again.